where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. Good evening. I'm Dylan McKim. For the next half hour, we are talking about the migrant surge in El Paso. The area has seen an increase in the number of migrants from Venezuela. It's something El Paso has not seen in the past. A majority of the migrants come to the country with no sponsor or money for a ticket to their final destination. The city has been chartering buses for these migrants to cities like New York and Chicago. But an overwhelming number of migrants without sponsors and not enough room or volunteers in the shelters caused releases into El Paso streets. ABC-7 covered the makeshift migrant camp that popped up near the Greyhound bus station in downtown. Migrants setting up tents and sleeping overnight. A Border Patrol processing site for asylum seekers coming to El Paso is growing. It's a site ABC-7 has shown you before. This week, our crew got a close look at how the operation is expanding as El Paso is seeing about 1,500 migrants a day. The site aims to help expedite their transition into the U.S. ABC-7's Brianna Perez toured the site. She files this report.
Here from the Chihuahuita neighborhood in downtown El Paso, you can see the lights shining through that border barrier, and behind the train, that's where Border Patrol has set up their new site to help with processing migrants.
I think that today we are looking at all sorts of ways that we can be more efficient and more effective in our processing of migrants coming across this border.
Never know.
Several groups of migrants make their way to the new temporary outside processing site.
They started staging right underneath this bridge. Right here behind you is a railroad track where the train is still very active.
That concerned El Paso Border Patrol Chief Gloria Chavez, who saw this area as an opportunity to expedite the processing of migrants.
I didn't want people sitting here under this bridge too long. I wanted to make sure that we were as efficient as possible.
With an average of 1,500 border encounters a day, last week the department created the site equipped with medical care and air-conditioned processing pods. Chavez says this will help with overcrowding at their central processing center and help get migrants to their final destinations quicker. Still, she says every migrant is thoroughly vetted during the process.
We want to know who and what is entering this country. We are going to register that individual. We're going to get their biographical data. We're going to get their photos, and we're going to get their fingerprints. And we're going to load them up into all the national systems that we have in place in this country so that we will always track and know who these individuals are.
For many migrants, this begins their journey into the U.S. After we interviewed the chief, right behind her, a family of 3 hugged and cried after their long journey onto U.S. soil was finally over. But now a new journey begins. From here, they will be sent to a holding facility and later sent on a different pathway, like to non-governmental organizations, where they will make other travel arrangements. As migrants continue to make their way, Chavez says regardless of the surge, border security remains top of mind.
Every day, all day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, our Border Patrol agents are on the front line protecting this country, and they're encountering people crossing at every minute, every hour.
Chavez's last day as Border Patrol chief is in 2 weeks. She says the department has not yet named the new chief that will take her position. For now, reporting in downtown El Paso, Brianna Perez, ABC-7.
Joining me now is County Judge Ricardo Samaniego. And Judge, a lot of developments in the past few weeks in regards to the migrant surge. We saw the El Paso, the Border Patrol processing site that's outdoors. The city has opened up their own welcome site, and the county. This past week, you and county commissioners just approved your new processing site. Can you kind of take us through what are the differences between the county's processing site and the city's welcome center?
Well, you know, from the very beginning, we had sort of taken different lanes. The city was going to focus more on shelters and focus more on transportation. And Chief Chavez had told us some time back that about 37% do not require staying at a shelter, and sometimes we commingle them and then trying to get them out of there to get them into the process. Ours will dedicate itself primarily to male and female single adults that we're able to know from the very get-go that they're going to have a ticket, they have a sponsor, they have somewhere to go. Worst scenario is that they have to stay overnight. Typically, they can pay for that. By taking out that large group of about 600, 650 that we'll be handling every day, then our resources can be used more properly for people that are struggling to get sponsors. As you know, the Venezuelans do not have sponsors. Sometimes they don't have money. And we need to get them moving directly. They're not wanting to stay in El Paso. They're wanting to get to other destinations, and then we could use the resources to be more expedient in what they have to do.
Would you see a difference here with the Welcome Center? They're going to be helping. We've toured that Welcome Center, and they're really trying to help, like you said, those Venezuelans that come here. They don't have a sponsor. They don't have the money, and they're asking them, where do you want to go? Some of the cities, they say New York City, they say Chicago, and that's really what the city is focusing on. They would be taking on that task, that challenge of finding them where they want to go, and also having that bus chartered for them. While the county, it's more of the people who are ready to go. They're like, yes, I have a family member maybe in North Dakota, or I have a family member in Washington. That's really what we'll see a difference here. And
we'll have touch points. There's things that they might have to stay somewhere else, or that they realize that this person can move quickly, and then we could move them into the process center. But one of the things that I discouraged early on, and now it's been a benefit, is not to send anyone just like New York without having an NGO or someone at the other end. So there was some confusion because the chartered buses from the city have nothing to do with Abbott's buses. They're totally different, but New York was beginning to feel that even El Paso, that we were sending out there with any notice, and that's not the case. They're working NGO to NGO, making sure we tell either Chicago. I've had people in my office from Chicago, and we've promised them, hey, we'll let you know how many people we're sending out there. And then some of them, when they get there, they realize that they'd rather be somewhere else. The more we coordinate, like I've said before, we have to work as a country, not as a community. I cannot say, well, I don't want them in my streets. I don't care if there's some in someone else's streets, because then they're going to have the burden. This coordination is extremely important for us to work efficiently.
What percentage of migrants coming to El Paso already have that sponsor and know where they want to go?
According to Chief Chavez, who was the one that led us into that, we went and we looked at a benchmark with Brownsville. They have a center where they about 700 people a day, and she felt about 37 to 40% are able to move quickly, and that's very helpful. Like I said, then you can use your resources to the ones that are struggling to get out of El Paso.
Wow. In El Paso, I mean, this is a new phenomenon, what we're seeing with Venezuelans coming here. How has this changed, I guess, the way the local authorities are responding to this? I mean, you're having to do a lot more work now.
Well, you know that we're so well coordinated. We've been doing this for 4 years. Bishop Seiss and myself have a task force that we meet once a week, and so we've been coordinating that. When you saw what happened at the bridge, it's the part of the process, except it backed up on us. If you see Del Rio, where they had almost 16,000 people out in the street, we're taking care of that. So if you don't, instead of seeing 700, if we weren't coordinating properly, you'd be seeing 2,000 to 3,000 people out there. People have asked us, how come they're not in is the wave, is it lessening? Are we having less people coming across because there's no one on the bridge? Actually, what we did, we were more efficient with our processes. For example, the city was able to take it from 200 to 300, now they're handling 400. Then we have flights that go out, and we have 4 to 5 flights a day that go out, so we decompress a lot quicker. The numbers are not slowing down. According to Chief Chavez, you're looking at maybe every week or so, 200 more. We had 1,700 apprehensions this week, or the average. She thinks in about 2 weeks we'll be at 2,000 apprehensions. So we streamline the process center, we don't back them up, and that's really important for the community, because the community, if we don't do that, they'll end up in the street. And I think we're great at processing and getting them to other destinations, but really not, I don't think we should become a place for them to stay, because we don't have the resources in the community. So I'm very blessed that we're able to move them through. Right
before our show started, you mentioned something that really caught my attention. We're talking about we're sending buses to Chicago, places like New York City. You've said New York, they're kind of saying, hey, pump the brakes a little bit. We're running out of space. Our NGO is a little overwhelmed. I don't know if we can take many more coming to our city. But you said that Red Cross told you other cities around the country are actually calling and saying, can we have some migrants come to our town, and maybe they'll become some valuable workers to them?
Yeah, that was interesting, because we're sitting there and we're wondering, what are we going to do? We're getting a pushback from Chicago, a pushback from New York. They're feeling a little overburdened. And then I hear from the Red Cross that they've got like 7 or 8 cities, like South Dakota is the only one I caught, that they want migrants to go to their communities. I think South Dakota said they could handle between 300 and 400.
Okay.
And that was really exciting, because like I said, you don't want to send them for the sake of sending them to a place that can be processed. So a little different, a little bit pivotal situation for us, and we'll start connecting with their NGOs.
What's the reason they want them? Do they give a reason? Is it because they want to work?
They want them to work. Their labor force is really low right now. They could use them in retail. There's some that are engineers, some that are have been supervisors or bilingual. So they have a lot of traits that could be very welcome. Pretty much what we saw in Ellis Island, right? That you bring them in and they're very talented, and your country just begins to be more productive.
Will they be allowed to work right away?
No, they have to go through the hearing first, and they're trying to expedite. I hear when we met with Commissioner Magnus, he said one of the things that they're really focusing on is to get as many judges, immigration judges, because that's what slows down the process. And you don't want people in your community and you're not able to sustain the impact it'll have in your community. So the quicker we know of either they're going back or that they can work, the better they are going to be for our country.
Let's take a quick break, Judge. When we return, still ahead, 3 city representatives are urging the mayor to declare an emergency, and they're raising a red flag about paying for this migrant surge. The mayor is responding to their concerns. Stay with us.
We already know liberal Gabe Vasquez wants to deconstruct and defund our police. But what would he do to the economy? Destroy it. Extremist Vasquez supported Biden's higher taxes and out-of-control spending, including a law that hikes taxes by $3 billion on families making just $75,000 or less per year. With rising prices on everything, New Mexico families need relief, not higher taxes and more inflation. Gabe Vasquez, too extreme for New Mexico. Congressional Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The power to change your future is now. The SUVs are here. Be one of the first to drive a new Explorer, Bronco Sport, or Edge. Custom order your Ford SUV today and lock in 2.9% for 60 months, plus $500 bonus cash. See your best in Texas Ford dealer for more information.
Our blessing, our dream, our miracle. I had no idea then that my miracle would decide to arrive 2 months early. Even back then, I knew it would be okay. I was at UMC, the highest rated maternal care hospital in El Paso. My life's most precious things need precious care. This is our blessing, our dream, our miracle.
El Paso's highest level of maternity care is at University Medical Center. Schedule your visit today.
New Mexico deserves better than extremist politicians who take orders from party leaders instead of us. So I'm running for Congress to fix it. I was raised by a single mother, built a small business, and served on the Las Cruces City Council. My name is Gabe Vasquez, and to protect a woman's right to choose, lower costs for families, and give New Mexico what it deserves, I'll stand up to any party leader. That's why I approve this message.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. On Wednesday, 3 El Paso City representatives wrote a letter to Mayor Oscar Leeser urging him to declare a disaster declaration amid the migrant influx. That letter was signed by Representatives Claudia Rodriguez, Isabel Salcido, and Sissy Lizarraga. The 3 are worried about funding. In the letter, they say the city has already spent more than $3 million of taxpayer money to address this issue, and the city is paying $300,000 per day without being reimbursed by the federal government. The letter says the federal reimbursements are coming too slow, and it's unfair to the community. They say the city is just now getting its January 2022 invoices paid nearly 9 months later. ABC-7 reached out to the mayor's chief of staff and invited him on the show to talk about the migrant influx, but we never received an answer. The mayor did, however, respond to that letter. He says, quote, "While I appreciate the concern expressed by the 3 city representatives, the action they are calling for is premature at this time. The migrants entering our community aren't coming to El Paso, they're coming to the United States. This is a federal issue which we are working with the federal government to address," end quote. The mayor went on to say the federal government would reimburse the invoices from the first 2 quarters of the year by the end of the week. And the city was just approved to receive $2 million of federal funding up front to address recent developments. Now, Judge, we're joined by County Judge Ricardo Samaniego still. What do you take about the mayor's response there? Is it too premature to declare this an emergency?
It is, because it was almost a year ago that I talked to FEMA and I said, what would change if we had an emergency declaration? And they said, nothing. You're going to get the funding from the same source. There's nothing that's going to change. And the only thing that I feel would be a problem would be if it's declared as one, then you enter into political narratives. Okay. And we don't isolate that. We've been so successful. We look at humanitarian processing, getting everybody to get to their destination. That's extremely helpful for El Paso. You don't want people out in the streets. It'll impact your tourism, impacts economic development. And if they stayed in the streets, that's, FEMA's not going to reimburse us for that. They're going to reimburse us to do our job, to move them properly. And so I feel very comfortable that I've already spoken to FEMA. They're ready to give us as well $2 million. Okay. And that'll be up front, which is really helpful. One of the reasons we delayed the process center was because of that. We were not willing or wanting to start anything without knowing we're going to get fully reimbursed. Yeah. So I can tell you it captures everything from overtime, personnel. The contractor's going to work at our process center. They get paid. That includes the furniture, includes everything there, personnel, and COVID testing and everything else. So I don't see the need for getting FEMA involved. They're going to hear the same thing that we did. That if they get involved, it's going to be identical and nothing's going to change. It's coming from the same funding. Yeah.
They wouldn't change it. I mean, it'd just be the same source of funding. We'd still be waiting, even if there was a declaration.
Yes. Now, what they're saying is that we're not going to wait anymore, and they sort of committed to that. That it's no longer going to be delayed. FEMA said. Okay. Give you your $2 million. You start your invoices from here on out, and we're going to be able to do that. Worst case scenario would be on a quarterly basis. But that is really a game changer. Right. We, as a government, we can't come out and grab money from, like we're getting the money from the economic impact funds. So we're taking it from there. It has nothing to do with quality or any quality of services or anything. If we didn't have an agreement with FEMA that we were able to get that money back, our auditor wouldn't allow us to do that. The auditor wanted to see a certified letter saying, you got $2 million coming, and now you can move forward.
I was just about to mention that the county auditor during the meeting on Monday was saying, I'm a little concerned with where the funding is going to come from. I mean, let's just go through really what the contract is for the third-party company that will be operating this is the Providencia Group. That's a $6.8 million contract for a one-year contract to have them staff it and operate the center. And then the building lease near the airport, that's $11,300 a month.
That's correct.
When he was talking about this, and there was the concern, I don't want to commit to this, and we have signed the dotted line, and then, the funding's not coming in on time. When the contracts were made, I know there was discussion from Commissioner Olguin. She was talking about, hey, can we make sure that we have some kind of termination clause in our contract? Because I think that is a good question. Let's say 6 months down the road right now, we don't really have a need for this center. The migrants kind of stop. There's not really the influx anymore. If there is no need for this, is there something in the contract where the county can cut this off?
Absolutely. We're not going to move into a contract that we're not able to get out. There's not an exit strategy. And we know that people are being optimistic. To be truthful, 1 year is not going to get better.
Really? You don't think so?
No, there's no way. According to Chief Chavez and Intel telling us what's happening, the amount of people coming from Venezuela, it's a communist country where they're struggling tremendously, and they know that we have no repatriation agreement, that we can't send them back to Venezuela. So that's a very attractive thing for them. So the chances that in a year we're going to be worried about that, I'm more worried that the other way around, do we have enough of that can we continue the agreement, especially with a lease? That's one of the most important. The lease, I mean, we could always find a contractor and go somewhere else, but you know how difficult it's been to find that building. So we want to make sure that we're covered properly, but I think it's a little bit too optimistic to believe that we're going to have to be talking about, reducing the number of people, and that's on them. They're going to start with 200 a week, and they're going to ramp up all the way to 600 at the same cost because they need to understand the process. So I'm not concerned, and the auditor won't let us move in that direction if there's not that we agree on that contract, that we're able to have that level of flexibility.
So there is a termination clause in there. in case of a
We're
lack
working
of
on
need?
that now, and I just, you know, we have to, I know the lease, for example, the lease, they're very open to that. I did speak to them directly. They're very open to that. We wanted to have that space to use for other things, and they said no, and that's okay. We were going to use that for sheltering because it's got a big lot on the side, because we still need the stopgap. You know, if tomorrow Gloria Chavez is not able to, Chief Chavez is not able to get the 5 flights out, how do we decompress? And then they'll end up back on the bridge. So anticipating, we've learned about anticipation. So I asked Chief Chavez, is it guaranteed that we could get 5 flights out every day or 4 flights? She can't, because where they're going has space for them. If they don't have space, then we can't decompress. So that's what makes it, you know, a little difficult to believe that we just need the process center. I still think we need, desperately, we need a place for like 2 days, 3 days to get them off the bridge. So what we're going to do, instead of having them on the bridge and in the street, we would put them in an area that we can have them and coordinate their ability to leave faster.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break. We have a perfect segue to our next segment, though, but we'll take a quick break. Still ahead, is there an end in sight for this migrant surge? Stay with us.
My crypto's down.
No coiner.
Trust. This'll move.
Do their fragging seat. Rez, hit me. I got my ult.
That's 472 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque.
Well, what's up with this team sheet?
Inverted fullback and a false 9?
The limited slip diff lets you hammer the throttle.
You don't get it till you go all in.
Poggers.
Stick it in the onion bag.
The Lexus IS, all in on the sports sedan.
We feel like life is for living, celebrating the wins, and enjoying the moments that matter. At Rise Federal Credit Union, we provide the advice and tools to help make your money work for you. That way, you can focus on what could be, no matter where you start from or where you want to go. Ready to dream big? We're here to help you get there. Together, we rise.
Know someone with diabetes or recently diagnosed? You might have questions like, now what do I eat? Now what about my physical activity? Now what about my blood sugar? The new Diabetes Now What site helps you find the tools you need to manage your diabetes. We've got helpful videos, downloadable guides and recipes, links to local diabetes education classes, and more, all at your fingertips. You're not alone. Visit us today, an initiative of the Paso del Norte Health Foundation.
Behind Mark Ronchetti's smooth smile and slick PR campaign, his plan will take away abortion rights in New Mexico. Ronchetti said he opposes abortion at all stages and was endorsed by extremists who want to criminalize abortion, even in cases of rape and incest. The real Ronchetti would take away a woman's right to control her own body. We can't trust Ronchetti as governor. Paid for by a stronger New Mexico.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. I'm still joined by County Judge Ricardo Samaniego. And Judge, we talked about it a little bit in the previous segment, but it's a question I think it's on everyone's mind. Is there an end in sight to the migrant surge we are seeing? Of course, El Paso, it's no stranger to having a migrant surge. We've seen it in the past, but it always seems that there was an end or a slowdown and we could catch our breath. Is there an end or a slowdown that we can see in the future?
No, you know, we're called Paso del Norte, so we've done that all our lives. I mean, the people come through here and the majority don't stay here, and that's going to be our trade, and that is create an industry of processing, do it the best possible way, do it humanitarian. But as long as there's communist countries like Venezuela where they're mistreating their people, this is always going to be attractive. So the only thing I feel that would have to change would be reforms. You know, like we would have individuals being able to come and work for a certain amount of time and go back. And there's going to be a lot of different changes, but there's no reason why we would believe. There's no facts, nothing that would tell us ahead of time that it's going to slow down. Okay. There's no evidence. And like Venezuela is a big country, and a lot of people are coming through. Either they'll come through Del Rio. Del Rio has become very dangerous, the rivers and some of the challenges. There's more distance between them. So El Paso is going to be very attractive. And so I keep saying that there should be a sense of appreciation that if we process properly, We get all our money back, and we do that. There's job creation. Obviously, there's going to be hiring of a lot of people to do processing at a great, a better salary. And if we become that,
form an industry here.
It'll be an industry of processing because we do it right. The commissioner, Magnus, said, I hate that sometimes we punish El Paso because they do it so well, because he doesn't see that. He's never seen the collaboration, and I could quote him. He said, I have never seen the collaboration El Paso has. I've been all across the border, and you don't see this level of cooperation, the humanitarian, and then he goes, you go now to you hear that they're at the bus station. Next day you go, and we've moved them out, and we do the best we can. And I tell the community, when you see the people there, it's part of the process, but it backs up on us. But I always say, I'm telling everybody, you need to see the glass half full and not the glass half empty. If you see 1,000 people on the bridge, I can guarantee you that any other community would have 5,000 to 6,000 people. So we're minimizing the impact every opportunity we have.
Do you know how many Venezuelans have come to, let's say, I don't know if we can break it down to just the United States or El Paso?
Well, we do know except like in our case, we're averaging, about 85%, and we're averaging about 1,700 apprehensions a day. And that's really started almost about a month ago. So I don't know the exact number, but it's not going to,
it's not going to slow down.
It's not, and Del Rio also is getting a big bulk. But the fact that we're able to send flights to other detention centers, to Del Rio and also to San Diego, means that the bulk are passing through El Paso.
Right. Title 42 is still in place. It was expected to be lifted in May. That was blocked by a federal judge. Venezuela does not fall under the Title 42. So when they come here and they're apprehended, Border Patrol cannot expel them under Title 42. Other countries are still, like Mexico, Honduras, other countries like that, they are under Title 42 and they can be expelled. When Title 42 is lifted, are you concerned about that at all?
Well, they're hearing us. That's why we've had from our Ambassador Salazar to Mayorkas has been here. Secretary Mayorkas now, the Commissioner Magnus is here, because I think they have to take into consideration that if they were lifting Title 42 at the same time that we have the Venezuelan situation, that would be, like I say, we have a manageable crisis right now, and it would turn into a chaos
if Title 42
if Title 42 is lifted.
So they kind of see the writing on the wall, and they're saying we can't lift Title 42.
They'd have to, because they know that we're managing. They're very complimentary, but they know this is not sustainable. There's no way. People get tired. We don't hire as many people. We don't have volunteers anymore like we used to have, because they feel they're more vulnerable to be in these sites. And so the perfect storm would be, to me, if you look at all the elements, a perfect storm would be lifting Title 42, and then it would be a chaos. And so I'm hoping that our government realizes, this is a federal issue on the shoulders of a local government. My goodness, that's really difficult. So we're holding on. Some agencies think sometimes because we manage it properly that they don't have to be here, like the Red Cross, right? The Red Cross was thinking, hey, you guys are doing a great job. And I said, no, you cannot tell us that. We're sustaining it. We need the resources. If you want us to continue to do this, we need the cots, we need the food, we need everything from you. And so I did everything yesterday to make sure that they didn't leave with an understanding that you got this, because it started like that. You got this, right? Going back to Washington.
You're treading water.
Yeah, we're treading water, and it tires. I mean, from 5 in the morning, we started getting the calls, the mayor and I, what's going to happen, how do you move things, and so, like I said, we're doing a great job, but we're at that edge that things could go in from a managed crisis to a real crisis to a chaos.
Wow. County Judge, as always, thank you so much for providing the latest details on this migrant surge. I know everyone, of course, our viewers and the nation really is keeping an eye on it. I thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure to direct ourselves to the community.
Sure. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dylan McKim, and this has been ABC-7 Extra.
Thank you for watching. ABC-7 News is now available on any of these streaming services, as well as the KVIA News and KVIA Weather and Traffic apps.